Hi, this is James from Tabletop Gaming Guild, and today we're going to take a look at Picky Pixie, where you're going to be an incredibly picky pixie. This is a 2 to 5 player game designed by Elizabeth Hargrave and published by Button Shy Games. In this game, each player is going to take turns being the pixie, trying to be not completely obvious on what pattern they're looking for their flowers, but have it obvious enough that someone guesses it before the end of the round, where your players are going to be trying to guess it as soon as possible so that they get more points than the player who's playing as the pixie. Let's go ahead down the table here. I'm going to show you how to play this game, and then we're going to come back and I'm going to give you my final thoughts. All right, today we're going to learn how to play Picky Pixie by Elizabeth Hargrave. In this game, you're going to have each player play as a pixie, and you're going to try to make a rule here that is pretty hard to guess, but not too hard to guess, because you need your opponents to be able to guess the rule before the deck runs out, or if you get to the last 2 cards of the deck. But you want to make it not too easy and they guess it really quickly. So in this game, whoever's going to play as the pixie is going to start off that round. Now, as a note, in a 2-player game, each of the 2 players will play the pixie 2 times. So they'll alternate playing the pixie and they'll all get 2 chances. But any other player count, everyone just gets 1 chance to play the pixie, and the game ends once everyone has had a shot playing the pixie. Now, the pixie player here is going to do a couple different things. They're going to draw 2 cards, and from these 2 cards here, they're going to pick a rule. And the rule they pick is going to be based on these groups. So they're going to pick one card where one of the groups matches the rule, and on the other card, one of these groups does not. Whatever rule they pick, they're going to write down on a piece of paper. Now, there are some rules to the rule they can pick. The pixie who draws the 2 cards, and then they're going to do as I said, and they have to create a rule. This rule must consist of 2 parts, an amount and a category. The amount must start with at least, less than, odd number of, even number of. Categories are all listed, well, not all of them, but main categories are listed on here. So you have at least, so at least 1 pink, or at least 3 flowers, or at least 2 orchids, or at least 2 yellows, or less than 3 cards, or less than 4 roses. Or you can do even or odd, even number of flowers, even number of a type, odd number of daisies. You can do any of those. So I'm going to pick what I'm going to do. And I'm going to say I'm going to need an odd number of purple flowers. And I can place one over here because I have an even number of purple flowers, which doesn't match my rule. I'll write that down and place it face down. As a note, everyone else needs a paper so they can write down their rules in secret, and a pencil. So the player to the left of the pixie is going to pick a card. They're going to pick which side they're going to offer. I'm going to go ahead and offer this 1 white flower. So this group I will offer. The pixie player is going to pick whether that matches their rule or not. In this case, it does not. Now, any player can call for a guess to be made. Now, only 1 guess can be made per offer. And if a guess is made, this card's going to be placed over here, and it's going to be worth 2 points if someone does end up guessing what my rule is by the end of the round for the pixie player. Each player is going to write down the rule they think it is on a piece of paper and place it face down. They will simultaneously show that rule, and the pixie player will tell if anyone has gotten the rule right or the rule wrong. If someone has got the rule correctly, the round ends. If not, you take a check, and if there's more than 2 cards in this pile here, you're going to go to the next player. The next player's going to pick a card, and they're going to do this card. And I'm going to say that does fit my rule. So I'll place it up here. Then everyone can call to see if they can guess the rule. And if someone does want to make a guess, I will gain another card over here. And let's say at this point they got the question correct. If not, we would continue on because we don't have 2 or less cards. If we hit 2 or less cards, the round ends. So how does scoring work at the end of each round? Well, it depends. Did someone guess the rule correctly? If no one did, no one scores any points at all. Just nothing. If someone did guess it correctly, each player who guessed the rules correctly scores 1 point for every 2 cards left in this deck. So you want to, as the non-Pixie player, you want to guess it as quickly as possible. The Pixie player scores 2 points for every guess called. So again, as time goes by and the longer we go through this deck, the more points the Pixie player could get. But if their rule is too difficult for everyone to get, then they could bust and no one gets any points. After every person has been able to be the Pixie, the game will end and the person with the most points will win the game. So there are an advanced and expert variants for this. In the advanced and expert variants, the Pixie may use more complicated rules. So in advanced, the rule may be standard rule or combine 2 standard rules and, for example, so at least 1 pink flower and less than 1 rose, sort of like that. Expert, the rules may take on any form. For example, more roses than orchids or stuff like that. If the player guesses are partially correct, the Pixie must tell them what the correct parts are with those versions. So that's some advanced versions you can play. If someone guessed the flower rule in the advanced or export game, you also score slightly different. For each player who guessed the rule, scores 1 point for every card left in the deck. So it's a little, you get a little bit more points. Not every 2, it's every card. The Pixie player scores 1 point for every guess called, but 0 if no one guessed the rules. So all right, so that's it. That's how you play Picky Pixie. Let's go back up to the table here and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, so that was Picky Pixie. Picky Pixie, component quality, card quality is amazing, just like all the other button shy games, so that's great. The game itself is really fun. It's really interesting when you are not the Pixie to try to guess what that pattern is as quickly as possible. Try to stay like laser focused on what is going in the yes or no and being able to get that quickly so that your opponent might get less points than you do. And then when you're the Pixie, you have to get that sweet balance between not too easy and not too hard and just nail it. And this game here is really great for playing with people you don't know because it's really a great game to get to know people better because you're going to get to know how they think a little bit with their patterns and stuff, and that's going to make the game even better. And this game actually has sort of like an infinite replayability in the game because the gameplay is all really centered around that pattern that the Pixie picked. So it would be different every time, probably, but it can be different every time. And that really makes this game a lot of fun. It's really just, when you play this game, it's just fun. It's just really interesting to have that like sort of fun tension where you're trying to figure out what it is, or that fun tension when you're trying to fool your opponents enough that they can figure it out later, but not too much where they don't figure it out at all. So really like Picky Pixie. And if you liked what you saw and how to play, I would highly recommend picking up Picky Pixie. And that's my thoughts on it. Thank you for watching.